stuff I'm revealing to you are things that you don't hear about. Demons are real.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Boy, do we have a lot to share with you. But most of all, we have a lot of love to give to each and every one of you. And so many people have come to us and asking for prayer. We do that too. We're so blessed to be here, to be of service to you. So I want you all to listen to the prayer that we pray for protection, because we are dealing with some very dark subjects, and in these dark subjects are dark entities, and which can infiltrate our minds and thoughts and actually change our perception. So what I'd like you to do is listen. If you know the prayer, say it with us or in your mind, or listen to the words. And we're going to start right now with the prayer, and then I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful and very distinguished guests, and then we're going to get into this. Okay, here we go. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruins of souls. Amen. Our panel is so blessed to have individuals with us that are willing to give a piece of themselves and hopefully help you with their input. And before we do that, I think Mercedes and Desiree, thank you for being with us, and you're going to introduce us to the individual. All the individuals that come on are they're being analyzed, and they're doing it all anonymously. Okay, so you won't hear their names. You won't even hear their location or anything that can be traced to who they are or their identity. Everything is confidential. So we're just going to hear the voice of the victim. And the victim is going to talk about the situation that they find themselves in. And whether they have dark issues, demonic issues, or something else is going to be something that may be determined by our panel with our input. And again, this is just a preliminary assessment, and we're just going to hear them, and this is all we're going to do. Desiree, anything you should want to say at this point?
Yes, we will be hearing from a couple. It was one of the gentlemen a gentleman that reached out, and Mercedes, the other co-producer, went ahead and spoke with them. So you will be hearing a man and a woman, and it is a couple that will be speaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we hear them, I want to introduce you to our panel. Of course, we have Reverend Dr. Glenn, who has been with us, and he's given us wonderful insight and his assessment. Bishop Dr. Joshua has been with us as well. He is part of our permanent panel, and he is a blessing to have, and thank you for being with us. And then we have a psychiatrist, Dr. Adrian. Thank you for being with us. He is a psychiatrist who has a platform, and he's been around the block a few times. And of course, we have another psychiatrist who is our Dr. Sanjay. He is also a part of our family, if you will, and his insights are extremely important. So with that, I'm going to have Mercedes and Desiree. can you put the individuals on, and we'll listen closely and try to get some impressions and perhaps even do an assessment at that point.
I guess I was about 12, 13 years old. We've had a lot of things going on when I was younger. Mom and dad split, and it was just, one parent one weekend, another parent another next weekend. And I had found this weird looking drawing in my closet, in my bedroom closet one day. And I told dad, about this weird drawing, and I told him about it. And it happened to be a Ouija board in my bedroom. He had set it on fire and got rid of it.
Do you have any troubles when you were having with the Ouija board?
Yeah, I mean, I became quiet. Didn't really talk to anybody. Really standoffish. Didn't really want to do anything. Didn't really even talk to my own parents. I just kind of stayed in my bedroom, honestly. Like, I just wanted to just stay in my bedroom all the time. I didn't even want to go do anything. Even today, I mean, I still feel like I don't really conversate with anybody. I'm still standoffish to this day. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started. So after the divorce, it just kind of just got worse and worse as time went on. And the relationship between the parents, between then and now, has just gotten way worse, because I don't really conversate. I don't really talk to anybody, because I'm still kind of like I was before. When I was 12 or 13 years old, it's still, I just haven't been able to break out of my shell. And I'm not sure why. After high school, I had joined the military, and
Okay.
me and my wife got married, and the first house we went to, they didn't have base housing available at the time, but we had to make the move fairly quickly, so we needed something to get into. And the only place that we could find was a month-to-month house, so we had to pay monthly. It's the only thing available at the time. And during that time, my youngest daughter was seeing things. She had called it like the ghost man. And my oldest daughter actually got bit, had bite marks on her arm. And that's when we saw the handprint going down the steps, down the stairwell, from the bedrooms upstairs. We saw like a handprint going down from the ceiling almost. It wasn't really like a normal handprint. It was kind of like a handprint that was kind of dragging along the wall. It almost looked like a claw mark almost. Just a hand going down the ceiling, as if it was like sliding and trying to hang on to something almost. I'm not sure. It wasn't just a regular handprint. Actually, my oldest has never slept in her own room with anybody else besides my wife, and I don't think my wife would bite her on the arm like that.
Right.
So she's got autism, so it's kind of hard for us to get them into the same room together to sleep together. So she's been sleeping with my wife ever since she was born. So I don't know. It kind of freaks us all out. It almost is like it freaks my wife out more than it freaks me out. It's kind of weird. I don't know if I'm just like accepting like what's going on, or I'm just like, okay, yeah, it's just a claw. It's just a handprint or a mark on the wall. But then I'm like, that is a claw mark on the wall. Like, what's going on? It wasn't there before, but it's almost like I'm like okay with it. But I don't know why I'm okay with it. When I should be a little bit more concerning on what's going on. I left out a big part. About the same time after I had found that Ouija board when I was about 12 years old. My right arm had gotten like slashed up. There was like marks of 3 all on my right arm. It was like, I want to say about 5 sets of 3 claw marks all on my arm. Here recently, I had gotten another 3 claw marks, but this time was on the right side of my face, by my jawline. There was just 3 claw, like almost like claw marks on my jawline. Hmm. Um, I mean, it's been rough here lately. I've been drinking a lot. I get angry. I have a lot of anger outbursts. Uh, sometimes like a weird, I wouldn't say growling voice, but it's more of like, it's not really my voice, like telling the kids to come inside, or when I lash out like that, it's like, it's almost like, that really wasn't my voice. It's kind of almost scary, almost. Like, was sometimes I have to even ask myself if that was even my voice at all. Um, when I'm telling the kids to come inside or whatever I'm lashing out about, um, I don't know, I get so angry about certain things, um, the kids or my wife, and it's just been really hard lately.
Have you ever, that you can recall, heard or seen voices or shadows or ghosts or anything?
Um, I mean, every once in a while, I'll see like a black shadow kind of dart at the end of my eye, and I'll look over, and then I won't see anything. When I know that something had flew across somewhere, um, and I always just kind of shrug it off like it's nothing. Um, uh, but I mean, we've heard knocking noises, and my wife has seen the same little black, I guess, figures just go across, and she doesn't see anything when she looks over, and just random like noises out in the backyard, or um, like on by the windows, uh, things like that. That's everything that I know of. A lot of it started when I was younger. Um, I mean, even before I was out the house in the military, and just single, I was still dealing with the same thing. Um, um, just by myself, just drinking a lot, um, just quiet, not wanting to go do anything, or have friends. I just wanted to be alone, just the same as I was when I was a kid. I do think it has gotten worse since we have been in that house, and moved here. I do feel like it has gotten worse.
Have you ever gone to any counseling and talked about this?
I've actually, I've been through 3 different types of anxiety depression medications, and none of them's worked. I I'm waiting on my next appointment next month to actually go see a psychiatrist out in town. Everything that they have given me, it just hasn't worked at all. Um, I would like to bless the kids and bless me, and maybe do a blessing of the house, just to kind of get rid of everything that could be attached. Maybe there is something. Actually, I that there probably is something attached. That with everything going on. Um, I would just like everything to basically just, just get blessed and get these things away from us that's kind of holding us back, really, and just, doing all these things to us. 'Cause I know that, I can't scratch the side of my face. I don't have any nails. I bite my nails, so it's kind of crazy how I get these 3 slashes across my face. Yeah, the last weekend ago, I think it was 2 weekends ago. So it's kind of scary, especially when my dad just was at the cathedral the night before.
And he had gone to pray for you, right?
Yeah, I was like, wow, there's no way. So that was kind of scary, knowing that he had went the day before, and then the morning after, I get 3 slash marks on my face. That was kind of crazy to me how that happened.
So when I woke up, he was already at work, and then when he came home, he was like, "Yeah, I want you to look at this," and he said, "Look at my face." And I was like, "What? Oh my God, what happened?" Thinking something happened at work. And he said, "Yeah, this was on my face when I woke up this morning." He said, I woke up and my face was burning. And I immediately went to the bathroom to look at my face. And that's when I saw the claw marks down the side of my face. And I'm like, "Shut up." I was like, "There's no way. You got to be joking." He said, "I swear to God." And he had taken a picture and sent it to his dad. His dad freaked out. And I just literally, when he said that, I got chills from my head to my toes, and I turned white as a ghost. And I was like, "Nope, that's it for me. Like, this ain't happening. I ain't dealing with this mess." So his dad went to this church and prayed for all of us and everything that was going on. And then that night, Brett went to sleep and woke up with the scratch marks. So that was extremely weird. And Brett was like, "There's no way that this happened," right after my dad went to the church and like prayed for us and everything that has been going on in the house. And then I wake up with these scratch marks on my face. I feel like it's like a circle, because like him and his dad has went through all of this their whole life and dealt with crazy, crazy stuff. And then now dealing with all this again. So I think it all started when we moved into a really, really old, scary house. And I mean, this house was just falling apart. We had heard that everybody who lived in this house always moved out really quickly, never stayed in there for longer than 6 months, maybe. And when we moved in there, we just, like, I remember just immediately getting this feeling as soon as we got there and they started showing us the home. Looked at each other and we were like, "This is just so creepy. Like, the feeling of this home is just so odd." And then we started trying to make it homey. We weren't going to live there long because we were only living there to move in. We were waiting for a military home to be open. So we tried to make it homey, and we would get pets and stuff. And every pet that we had in that home died. I think 3, and we tried to get 3 animals in that home, and each one of them died. Every time. We didn't have a pet longer than a couple weeks in that home. And it was for unknown reasons why they would pass. 2 just ended up dying, and then we had gotten a cat, and then she eventually, and she was so healthy. The previous owner and I we became good friends, and she was moving to England, so she couldn't take the cat, and she was very healthy. No, she's had this cat for like 6 years. She was old, but like she went to the vet often to get checkups. Like, there was nothing wrong with her. And all of a sudden, her body and her organs started shutting down when she came to the house with us. and she died in a matter of days. So that was really weird. Then we noticed our oldest daughter, she started acting really weird in the house. She became like super aggressive, very emotional. And we noticed that she would be staring off, into space sometimes and terrified to go upstairs. And we would ask her, like, what are you staring at? Like, why are you so scared to go upstairs? And she would tell us that there is a scary in the house. And that's what she called, and she would never say what it looked like, or anything like that I can remember. She just called it a scary. And we were like, okay, that's pretty strange. And me and my husband would fight so much. We've always usually had a good relationship with each other, and we were good at, decent communication. Like my husband, I don't know if he told you, but he's always had problems with communication as he was growing up, but we were always okay. But we fought all the time. We almost went through a divorce, and it all started in that house, and we couldn't figure out like really what the root of the problem was, because it wasn't that we were unhappy with each other. We had, stress like any parents would have because of our kids, but it was manageable. We were just at each other's throats for no reason at all, the small things. And we were just both so angry at life. And we were like, why do we feel this way? Like, it's just so unusual. We had so much hate in our heart, and we couldn't figure out why. And then I think that's when it all started. The house was just super eerie. And then right after we moved out, another couple, I think it might have been a family, moved in, and they were there for, I think they said 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and left because they were uncomfortable. That's all we got. My husband was always usually okay. Like, he's always had a drinking problem, but at one point he was good. Like, he was managing. Just recently that he couldn't control himself, and his mental health got so bad, and he was just so angry, and we were fighting again. And he just recently had the biggest mental breakdown that I've been with this man for almost 10 years now. I've never, ever in my life seen him the way he was a couple weekends ago, and he just lost it. He said he was going to kill himself. He left the house. I didn't know where he was. I had to call his dad, his sister. He sent goodbye messages to his mom and his dad. He said, I can't do it anymore. And this was just out of nowhere, and didn't know that it was that bad. And we got through that, but I see things in the house. My daughter, I see children, like I'll think that my kids are sleeping, and they are sleeping, but then I'll be in my bed, and my oldest daughter, sleeps with me. And I have my door open at night so I can hear if my daughter in the next room wakes up or starts crying or whatever. Just for safety reasons, I leave the door open, and I would see what I think is my daughter in the next room come down the hallway when she should be sleeping. And I'll be like, what are you doing, baby? Like, what do you need? And I won't hear her answer me. So I get up to go check and see, if she's going to use the bathroom or gets up for anything to drink, which she doesn't ever do that. She usually sleeps through the whole night. And I got up and I went to the hallway because I seen our bedrooms are in the hallway. And then the way she was going was to the kitchen out of the hallway. So I walked that way, and I didn't see her. And so I went back to her room, and she was asleep. And so I went in there. I was like, well, my son can't get up because he's in a crib. My husband was sleeping, and then my oldest daughter was sleeping in the bed with me. So at that point, I was like, I'm seeing things. What's going on? And that's happened quite a bit, where I have seen only small children thinking it is my kids out of the corner of my eye, or blatantly seeing them. Like, I swear up, I just got chills. I will literally physically see them, like my own child, and it will not be them. They will be in a different room or sleeping, and I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I will question my sanity. Like, what am I going insane? And yeah, it's very strange. My daughter will, my middle child, she is 5, and she always tells me she has an imaginary friend, and she talks to herself a lot, but it's not like she's talking to herself. And I know kids, they have an imagination. They talk to themselves. They play Barbie dolls, like, oh, let's go for a ride, or whatever. But now I'll ask her, just out of curiosity, like, oh, who were you talking to? And she says, it's my best friend. And I'm like, oh, what's your best friend's name? And she says, I don't know. And I'm like, well, what does your best friend look like? And she said, well, he's really nice, but he looks kind of scary. And I'm just like, well, can you give me details of, like, maybe what he looks like? Is he a boy or a girl? And she goes, I don't know. I can't tell. And I'm like, oh, I got chills again. And she has, every time I've asked her that question, she says the same thing. So she doesn't switch it up. She doesn't say off the wall answers. It's the same exact answer every single time. And now she's the only one that has seen or talked to this thing. My oldest daughter has not said anything. Obviously, my younger son, he's only 2, so he doesn't really know or see things that he can tell me. But my middle daughter, she definitely does. She plays with it. She's even fed it. She's like, Mommy, when we did dinner one time, she said, Mommy, I gave her plate, and she's like, Mommy, where's the other plate? And I'm like, well, I gave you your food. And she said, no, for my best friend. And I'm like, well, you want me to feed your best friend too? And she goes, yeah, he's sitting right here. Well, she didn't say he, but it's sitting right here, and I need a plate right here next to me, the same thing I'm eating. And I did it. So I went ahead and put a plate next to her, and she would just kind of look over there and smile, and was so happy that I had put a plate for him, her, this thing, whatever it is. And yeah, she does that pretty often. And oh, and I forgot to mention, I don't know if my husband remembered this, but when we were in our last house, my oldest daughter that was seeing the scary had bite marks. She woke up with this, which is what made it kind of like weird, because when she went to bed, that wasn't there. And then when she woke up, she had the bite marks, and she was saying, ow, like somebody bit me. That was pretty traumatizing. I'm telling you, like, that freaked me out. That made me want to just pack my things and go. But going upstairs for any reason, even if it was during the daytime, scared me to my core. Like, my hair would just stand up on the back of my neck. I just could not go upstairs. So we slept downstairs. We did everything downstairs. We just could not go up there. Just honestly scared for the kids. Like, and I'm worried about, my husband. Obviously, my husband seems to get the main portion of everything that's going on, especially here lately. I just want peace. I want to feel normal. This has been going on for a long time. This last house, we had gotten rid of that and moved, and yeah, I just want to feel normal.
Have you sought counseling or anything like that?
So I do. I am in therapy, yes. Yeah, I go to therapy. We don't really, I wouldn't say we talk about the things going on like in the house other than like my husband and I, but nothing of like what we're dealing with like the paranormal thing going on. But I do go to therapy for, you know, my mental health, and part of it is because of everything going on in the house. So yeah, I'm almost scared to tell somebody because I mean, I love my therapist, but then again, like, you don't know who's going to judge you or who believes in that sort of stuff. So I just don't mention it. I just, you know, usually tell her there's a lot going on.
Well, that's a lot of information, to say the least. As I said, you know, there's only a certain amount that we could actually do. We take a little piece of this, a little piece of that, and we just give our first impressions and then maybe some recommendations. I'm gonna have Bishop Joshua take the first stab at this. Maybe you can give us your impressions.
Thank you, Your Grace. Yeah, absolutely, there was a lot of information that was given out by the victims. As always, I try to listen for background information as to what's taking place in their life. He talked about coming from a broken home, so obviously 99% of the time there's going to be abandonment issues there. He talked about isolation. He talked about anxiety and depression. So we know those are all active things in his life that he's experiencing. A lot of times when there's a divorce, children often blame themselves. So that is what causes there to be a lot of trust issues in a person's life, based on that abandonment, based on their feeling of being the one responsible for the breakup. He didn't really talk much about any type of religious background. He did talk about his father, though, going to church and praying, and then there was something that took place, a physical manifestation. Then he began to talk about some of the different things that he had been involved in. I know it's the classic, you know, I found a Ouija board, we burnt the Ouija board, and that seems to be the common denominator in a lot of people that present themselves claiming to have demonic possession or oppression and possession. He talked about anger, he talked about alcoholism and addiction, talked about being on medication, talked about going to see a psychiatrist, talked about the medications not working. So when I hear a person say that, that's a telltale sign to me as a therapist that they've stopped taking their medicine, usually. Then he began to talk about the effects of the different things going on in the house as it pertains to his children, bite marks, scratch marks, seeing ghosts, seeing figures. Then, you know, he talked about, he and his wife both talked about, you know, him being suicidal, having suicidal thoughts or feelings. And saying goodbye, and I just want to look at this from a mental health aspect, and then I want to jump over to the supernatural very quickly. I'm not going to take much time. But saying goodbye isn't always meaning that you are suicidal with intent. Most of the time I found that it's a cry for help. You know, people don't feel like people are able to hear them, and they're not able to communicate what they're feeling psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. So they automatically say, hey, I'm going to commit suicide. I feel like I don't have a will or desire to live anymore. But sometimes, you know, he's talking about medication, and then my mind went to, well, is he on SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors? Because sometimes the symptoms from those medications does cause you, in fact, to have suicidal tendencies. Even antidepressants have that risk as well. Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Adrian can verify that. It seems like people that's 25 and younger who are on antidepressants have a lot of trouble with suicidal feelings. Mood stabilizers also and antipsychotic medications can cause that as well. But what I wanted to talk about momentarily was, I don't necessarily think that it just has something to do with something mental health-wise, because they were talking about Ouija boards and talking about hearing things and seeing things and possession. Father Gabriel Ambrose said possession doesn't happen overnight, and I agree with him. He said it's a process. And it always requires, Archbishop Ron, you've always taught us for the last 2 decades, it always requires an open door. There has to be an open door, an invitation in, playing with Ouija boards, going to a seance. And listen to this, brothers and sisters, friends, listening to this. Even going to a ghost hunt with your friends may be an open door. No matter how innocent your intentions are, evil spirits take advantage of that. And, you know, Father Gabriel Amherst give us 4 things that happen before full possession takes place. And I really have lived by this my whole ministry. He talks about infestation. And we've heard him talk about, seeing things and hearing things and seeing images and hearing voices. Well, infestation is what we call a haunted house. We all know the classic footsteps, voices, apparitions, furniture moving, furniture being thrown without human effort, odors, and it don't actually directly affect people. It affects property, objects, or animals. So it's relegated to a geographical location. Then we talk about oppression. That's where the activity steps up to, there's physical attacks. You can't sleep well, nightmares, severe illness, major depression, anxiety, loss of a job, financial setback, relationship troubles, divorce. Now, we know all these things happen in life. We all know that. I mean, as a pastor and as a bishop, I talk to many people all the time, and even as a therapist who have went through these things, who never has said anything about demonic possession. So these are things that happen. But I believe it's a process. Infestation can lead to oppression. But here's the thing that I've noticed, Your Grace and panel. Once infestation and oppression take place, then we find people entering into what's called obsession. It's a place where they have a hard time functioning, without being preoccupied with the thoughts of the devil. Well, the devil's done this or the devil's done that, or it's evil spirits or an evil influence. And often this brings about with it also thoughts of suicide. Sleep, forget about it. Most of the time it fades away. Now, these stages can be addressed by those of us that have been trained to do this type of ministry. But the last stage, it takes someone who is trained, and that's someone who can deal with actual possession. And like we've said on this program many times, contrary to popular belief, possession is not demons entering into a person's body and taking over his or her soul completely, because a person still has free will. Their free will is never removed, but it's severely compromised. In possession, a person is so physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually broken by going through the 3 stages we talked about prior, that demon spirits are able to seize occasional control over that person's actions. Now, Archbishop Ron has given us several things to look for. Superhuman strength, speaking in tongues, or speaking in a language that they don't know. Inordinate aversion to holy things, knowledge of events or facts that a victim could not know. So there, all these classical things that we talk about, we do see a hint of these things in this particular situation. I'm not going to come out and say that there's possession, but I do believe, Your Grace, that there's been an infestation, oppression, and an obsession. And that's just my personal assessment. Thank you.
Very good. One of the things that we do in our organization is we do an assessment, and we look for evidence. If the evidence isn't there, the odds are that it's not a real, tangible thing. Okay? If there have been people saying that, that they're experiencing certain things, we have to be very skeptical and make sure that we understand what they're saying and what can be proved. It's very, very important. There's so many things that could distort our perception of reality, unfortunately. And there's so many things out there that will actually do that. I want to get to Dr. Adrian. Dr. Adrian, I wonder if you could give us your impression. Of course, we understand that, there's a lot of information there. And but maybe you can, recall maybe a segment or two as to what this all may mean for this individual and what you would suggest for this person.
Well, first of all, I'm a psychiatrist. I have been trained to work with the mind, with the body, with medications. I heard that both the husband and the wife were in therapy. The results are questionable. I don't know what's happening, but they seem to hang on to this hope that something supernatural being treated would get them out of pain. Because they happen to believe in that, they were raised in that spirit, the religious spirit, the fact that the child was using, the 12-year-old or 13-year-old, using an Ouija board, and I mean, they were very much, in terms of their religious beliefs, they were geared in that direction. They appeal to you, and in 50 more years of practice as a psychiatrist, this is not something new to me, what I heard now. I've heard it hundreds of times, more than that. But the thing is, it doesn't make an impression on me that much because of that, except that this is a regular case of a problem, a psychiatric problem of two people that happen to be married, to have children, that also seem to be not very well adjusted. So I think, because I worked with spirit releasement, and in my book, The Psychiatrist's Search for God, I published it in 1996, but I mentioned 7 cases of spirit releasement, and what I wanted to point out is that there is always a combination of factors, and I believe that when these people are thinking very hard about supernatural, they are going to invite it, what you think you create. They are going to invite spirits, they are going to invite spirits of dead people, or alive, or diabolic ones that haven't taken control over them completely. But there are spirits, and I had personal experiences with this kind of spirits, talking with them and communicating. Like I cleaned a house, a very huge house, in a luxury place of some spirits that came there, an old and a young Indian. They were coming and possessing the children, and so we got to talk. I talked with them, I convinced them to leave. So when it was peace there, it was a cinematographer that called me to do that. So there are spirits that are all over the place, and they are bound to come to us if we think too hard. I mean, what you think you create, what you feel you attract, what you imagine you become, sooner or later, through repetition, programming, and motivation. But practically, I'm a practical man, a pragmatic psychiatrist. I think that they need psychiatric treatment. Mm-hmm. I think that the spirits will not have channels of communications by blocking them with medications correctly. I think that, with God, everything is possible. So if we bring God into their life, the good God, the loving God, not the diablo or whatever, if you bring that and you give them love, love in the, I saw a 103-year-old lady, doctor, that shared something very important that she learned in life, and I could identify with that as a psychiatrist, as a doctor. And this is that anything that you do in life, do it with love. I think when I see geriatric patients in convalescent homes, I give them love. I listen to them. I know that they need medications many times, and I give them to them. But other times I don't. I just talk with them and give them love, give them understanding. TLC, okay? I don't like to give too many chemicals, you know, if I can. I graduated from the Menninger School of Psychiatry, which was the top ones in the world. And I got the first award not because I gave medications, because I want to find a connection between mind and body, between my emotions and body, between spirit and body. Especially after I finished the training there in Topeka, Kansas, I realized that, you know, there is more to us than surgeons can remove. And I cannot just talk about mind over matter. I have to talk about spirit over matter as well. So, yeah, there are a lot of spirits, a lot of negativity. It's like cotton candy that sticks to us. And we should be able to, and we have the freedom, because we're created victors, as I said before, not victims, but we become victims. I agree with you, because we allow these spirits to attack God in us. I'll give you an example. My daughter, by the way, she's a child, and she gave me information about a past life in Mexico, and she was Catholic. Now she's Jewish. She's my child. And we change religions, you know, but we don't change God. We don't change love. So she, you know, she came to me and, you know, she was very, very informative. What I'm saying is that there are influences from the past life, from this life. There's like cotton candy all over, negative and positive. But the main thing, as you said, you know, there is evil and good. And good always triumphs over evil. And we have to empower the victims to become victors again. It's not just the medication. The medication, it's 50% success you hear, or 60%, or, I mean, and I don't go by percentage, I go by people. Yeah. When somebody said, well, you're doomed now, you're going to die, you have cancer, you have this condition that is fatal, I say, what are the chances? Well, maybe 1% that you'll escape that. He says, well, let's stick with it. Empower the people, give them love. You give them medication when needed, yes, but be careful. I give a lot of natural remedies, you know, and vitamins and things and minerals. But with these particular two people that I heard today, I would pragmatically recommend that they continue with therapy, but maybe change the therapist and find somebody that can give them the right medication, you know, because some people are so loyal and she loves her therapist, but hey, there's no results. So change the therapist, change the medication, you know, get more second and third opinions, things of that nature. But I think practically, I would treat them psychiatrically. I think they're psychiatric patients. You see, it's not a spiritual experience that it's short in nature. It's a long time experience, a lot of comorbidity, a lot of suffering from that, you know. You don't have in a spiritual experience something, you know, something so lovey-dovey. It's very bad, but with them it's very bad. It's more like, you know, to me, severe psychiatric illness has to be treated, yeah. And in a very humanitarian way, loving way.
Of course. Thank you so much. You know, the things that stand out in regards to what I heard these people were talking about was a Ouija board. A Ouija board, I don't think has any magical elements to it. I think it's our intention. If we intend to do something and use a Ouija board, which is just a piece of cardboard, but if they intend to use that with their intention to go beyond the veil, if you will, and try to communicate with the other side, I think that they're inviting all kinds of problems. He also mentioned he was a veteran, so who's also seen war. So I'm assuming post-traumatic stress syndrome is probably another thing that probably should be addressed. He probably has some kind of residual that's going on, no doubt. He probably needs an ongoing, as you both mentioned, a psychiatric a continuation in terms of therapy. I'm going to switch over to Dr. Glenn, Dr. Reverend Glenn. If you could give us your impression, and then we're going to move on to Dr. Sanjay.
All right, now I kind of want to agree very much with everything Bishop Joshua and Dr. Adrian said. I was struck also by the kind of trauma he has as a youngster. It sounds like the divorce occurred at an age. Going from a young boy to a teenager is a very bad time to have that kind of trauma of divorce impact your life. And he manifested that by his isolation from a young age and his increase in that desire to draw apart. I wrote, he's stuck in his shell that he has built around himself for self-protection from the hurt that he feels. And there's a lot of other things, but I don't want to be redundant about what has already been said, other than say it sounds, I'm a concurrence with that evaluation. Some of my concerns are some of the physical manifestations that I'm assuming that they really had scratches on the body and that they didn't scratch themselves. And those kinds of symptoms and seeing shadowy figures moving back and forth. I think that they do well to perhaps not only see a psychiatrist, but someone who is perhaps well trained in exorcisms, deliverance ministries, to check out, not necessarily to perform an exorcism, but to check out the depth in which they are experiencing what seems like supernatural phenomena. I think that what they explain, I would, off the top of my head, say it certainly sounds like they experience infestation of some kind in their original dwelling. And whatever happened, even as they moved, that seemed to, whatever it is, happen to move with them. And that is perhaps moved way beyond merely infestation, but also oppression. And perhaps on in my thought, the moving into the obsession stage, although I'm not sure they're there yet, but I see that same kind of pattern that Bishop Joshua did. I would hope, I wish I had heard about, they mentioned no religious affiliation. Dr. Adrian, I really appreciate this whole thing of love, because I work with people, quote, who are infested or possessed or whatever, that one of the things I learned when I did my training in mental hospital, as you illustrated, is that one of the things I learned, how do you love people who are not in touch with reality? And so You love them where they are. And I would hope for them that they could make some kind of connection with a good pastor or a good spiritual director who would open the doors for them to experience love. It seems like most of their married life, while they seem to get along, most of their married life has been filled with tension. I would hope whatever needs to happen would bring some peace and relief from the symptoms they're experiencing. So, along with the psychiatrist, I would hope they would also be able to find someone who was skilled in exorcism or deliverance ministry to investigate further that aspect of what seems to be going on with them, especially the physical scratching and the imaginary friend. I know kids sometimes do that, but this seems to be to the extreme in my limited experience. And so that would be, I don't want to be redundant, long-winded, but I would say yes, consult a good psychiatrist, but also look into someone who has some expertise in a deliverance or exorcism kind of ministry to check out the reality. And I think anyone who is a good exorcist will have some clue as to what's really demonic and what is a psychiatric problem. So I think it almost has to be a teamwork. I hope as we advance in these understandings that there'll be more teamwork between psychiatrists and deliverance ministries or exorcists. Some of that exists, but not too much. Not too much. Anyway, that's basically what I want to say. I made 2 pages of notes, but I'll put you to sleep with that.
That's fine. That's fine. I think that we're already creating and constructing these bridges now, where we can actually use the medical community, psychiatric community, have them involved in all of our assessments, which we have from the very beginning. I have to tell you that most psychiatrists are still old school. But those psychiatrists who are progressive, who think outside the box, these are the people that we use. These are the people that we need ongoing, because it's not just what our particular perception may be in regards to whether or not it's a demonic involvement or not. I mean, we need to make sure that we have all the bases covered. I noticed that they were sharing all the key things. There's marks, scratch marks, Ouija boards, shadow people, other elements involved, medication that's being taken. They're receiving counseling. They're seeing a psychiatrist on a regular basis, and all these things, and yet they still have these issues. Even though they've already been focused and they've been addressed, but they still have these issues. So we have to go beyond what the traditionalists would tell us to do, and rely heavily on all of these disciplines. And we do that, maybe we'll come a little closer to helping people find the answers. Dr. Sanjay, I want you to give us words of wisdom. What kind of impression did you receive from these individuals? And maybe you could also give us an insight as to what these people should do at this point.
Okay, thank you very much for this intro, and I've been very keen to hear everybody's opinion, and I'm really glad because I'm giving my opinion at the last, because it gives me an opportunity to not only hear from the victim but also hear from the experts as well, and try to formulate my opinion. So just a very brief intro about me. Once again, So I'm a consultant psychiatrist specializing in geriatric psychiatry with a special interest in spirituality and psychiatry and a brain trauma. So I'm going to keep it very short, and I'm going to summarize the key point.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing is that, and I've heard from Bishop Joshua, Dr. Finkelstein, and Reverend Glenn as well. I think everybody has made a very solid conclusion about where the couple is coming from. But from my perspective, I may have a bit of a combined view, taking components of everybody's view into account and then try to formulate my own opinion about it. So here we go. So I do believe there is a lot of childhood attachment issues. There has been a trauma there. And the only thing I would say, I forgot to mention, that at the start of the convo, when the victim was giving the account of what's been happening, for some reason, for a few minutes, I couldn't hear anything at all. And it's been happening on my iPad because I'm connected on the iPad at the moment. So please forgive me for that if I missed out on something. What I do believe, that certainly there is some sort of psychiatric disorder which is quite evident. Now, obviously, being treated, going for therapy, being on various medications, etc. But at the same time, I had a few questions in my mind which I just wasn't very sure. And those questions are, I think the lady described that her husband, they've been together for 10 years. And she's never seen him like this, change in personality, which is quite important. And in that change, he's becoming quite manic, aggressive, anger outbursts, behavioral challenges. And my question to her was really, how does he normally present? What is his pre-morbid personality like? When you first got to know him, got to marry him, etc., how was he like at that time? Is there any use of any drugs or alcohol, illicit substances? I didn't hear that, actually. If I missed that, I'm not sure. Obviously, they have seen a psychiatrist. Would be quite keen to find out what the diagnosis is, actually, whether there is a categorical diagnosis of DSM-5, which they've been labeled as. And then the other thing which I did, what the lady was saying, that she sees small children. There are bite marks, there are scratches on the wall. Things like that then makes you think outside the box of psychiatry a little bit, right? Because this is why we are here as a team, because, it's so valuable, even for me, to understand these things. I'm learning as well at the same time from you all experienced folks here. And for me, that is something abnormal. Now, they've been living in that house for, I don't know how long for, I can't remember. They moved in that house, and these events have been occurring in that place. And it makes me wonder if there is a potential link with the place and the events which are happening, which cannot be explained. Now, obviously, the lady's seeing it. The gentleman sees things, scratches on the wall, anger. But then if you combine that with the psychiatric diagnosis, going for a therapy, what therapy that is, I don't know whether there is it could be any personality disorder or depressive symptoms or mood and anxiety disorder. What's going on in there? There are a lot of there are a lot of if and buts which are unanswered, but I do believe, agree with Dr. Finkelstein that psychiatric help is important in this case, but at the same time, I would suggest, my recommendation would be that there has to be some investigation into what happens there in that particular place where they live. And perhaps, for all of us, if we can get some little bit more background information on things like drug and alcohol history, what's a psychiatric diagnosis, what medication and they've been on, etc. I'm going to finish with this one example because I do believe demonic possessions can occur, and the psychiatric medications may not have a role to play in that because they're only going to numb the person. This case was, obviously, I may have mentioned about it quite a while back during our first podcast, if I'm not wrong. And this case was about Anneliese Michel, a young girl, Catholic girl, born and raised in Klingenberg in Germany. Very devout family. Parents strict Catholics. A small village in Klingenberg, not far, near Frankfurt, put it in that way. And she went to the college. She wanted to be a teacher, but she was also a very devout Catholic. And she was possessed initially they thought it's a psychiatric issue. She was hospitalized, treated with several drugs, including she had all the scans, etc. And then the parish priest was called at the time. The Catholic Church wouldn't authorize the exorcism because they felt that it was a case of psychiatric problem. And eventually that girl, at the age of 21, from 19 to 21, something like that, she went through over 50 failed exorcisms only because she was drugged up to a degree with the medications that she wasn't able to let go. And as a matter of fact, she had a dream about it. And in that dream, I did get a book on Anneliese Michel, the original book written. And in that, there was a comment made that even God asked her at one time that you've suffered a lot. Are you ready to come home with me? And she said, no, I'm not. Because unless I show the world devil, they're never going to believe it. So that's where my conclusions are. I think I'm taking a kind of a combined view on this. In most of the cases, I can be very straightforward in summarizing my conclusion, but here I have a slight questions, of course, and some doubts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. I guess we're going to conclude this. I think we're all in agreement that she probably needs an ongoing treatment program and perhaps even some spiritual counseling.
Yeah.
I pray that that everyone that hears this this broadcast will benefit from the wisdom from all our panel, and I think we're representing pretty close to 200 years of psychiatric and ministry experience. So it's we're pretty much equipped here. I think we're going to probably close this. And we'll just say the St. Michael's prayer, and then we're going to close it until our next episode. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. Do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruins of souls. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you. Until next time.
Take this moment to invite those that are needing help from these incredible
people on this panel, these experts that deal with all of these issues. We invite you. Desiree and I are here to take your messages, and I'm sure Desiree we can go ahead and give them out the email and things that they need. We do invite you to please send in your information so we can help you.
And for the information that you'd like is to give, we'd like to give you is you can send us an email on orderofexorcists@gmail.com. We also, if you'd like, you can reach us at a number. My number is Desiree at 443-961-4649. Again, it's Mercedes, and her number is 520-261-3171. We are on East Coast and the West Coast, so and we are available. We are also on social media online, so you can reach out on Facebook as well as any other social platforms. We are expanding our online presence. As we do this, we will be announcing other ways. We are also on YouTube of Unseen Realm as well. And if you have a story or a situation that you'd like to share and have our expert panelists evaluate and assess, please, the light is there for you in this darkness. Okay, we do care and we do understand. God bless you.
God bless you.
Down on your knees every day. I'm thankful.